Theo Pelmus. So how long have you been working at gelato maker?
Pinocchio. So Pinocchio as a gelato maker for I think 3 years.
And how often do you do it now?
Just once every week, every Sunday.
How did gelato become such an important aspect of your work?
Because I think it's very visceral and can be shit also.
Gelato can be shit,
but sweet in the same.
shit but sweet at the same time. But how's that?
So because it becomes very messy, so like it's becomes very messy. So from a solid state, it can be like in a very liquid state. So kind of a very transitory kind of material, right? Very performative material.
So this is that's the shit. And did you always know that you wanted to work with this staff, or it just happened? Like you were like,
no, I never thought I was gonna work with them. After studying so hard, I never thought that I would end up making ice cream. But that's okay.
Holy smokes. When I first met you a bunch of years ago, you were doing self-portraits, and it was all about making self-portraits, and it was all on paintings and sculptures. But now you're doing a lot of performance. And but are you still working with the same ideas? Like
I think it's the same. Like in the essence, I'm doing the same thing I was doing in paintings. I'm working on the idea of identity, right? And believing that it's not about one identity; it's more kind of like an individual as a container of identities, and kind of trying to frame a self-portrait or something like that. So. Actually, I'm doing the same thing, right? So I'm not. I'm continuing like with another medium that I find more appropriate for my own work, right?
So
so I'm been doing all this like sculpture made from ice cream. Oh, we can go down. There's a freezer. Let's go down.
Let's go.
There's a freezer.
Okay.
Come.
This is Pure Gelato, and you have a really good relationship with your company, right? With this company, right? Hi, how are you?
No, like this is my colleague. This is Michelle.
Hi, Michelle. I'm Ulysses.
This is
Lovely to meet you.
Nice to meet you. That scared me, and I was like, men's voices? Where's that coming from?
Yikes. So, Pure Gelato has sponsored your pieces, right?
Yeah, like a few times. A few times, yeah.
And okay. So this is part of your work. Maybe turn them around. That's the mold.
That's the mold. Huh?
That's the mold that you make the gelato heads with.
Exactly.
Right? And these are all your. That's all your heads.
Yeah, this is the head. Huh?
Oh, that's brilliant.
Is the head?
That's a
does it look
Theo
like
Pelmus head.
Does it look?
Absolutely, yeah. Unbelievable. Very
I
nice.
think this is lemon.
and that one looks like it has Damien Hirst.
Damien Hirst, yes. And I think Tanya Ma should be somewhere there, and Yana Star back there.
And it kind of looks like sort of like a serial killer sort of collection of heads or something.
Yeah.
This is great, and you bought the freezer, right?
Frigidaire.
So So you bought a freezer. Your work has to be refrigerated.
Yeah, it has to be refrigerated. Like if I unplug it, that's it.
It's gone.
Done.
It dies.
It's
Oh,
a
boy.
beautiful concept, right? Like it's kind of, you have
Yeah.
kind of the perfect mechanism, right? And once it's unplugged, like everything disappears. Yeah, I think it's
Yeah,
the beauty
yeah.
of transformation, right?
That's really nice. Yeah.
Interesting.
That's really amazing. So and you made those heads in the summer, so
Oh yeah, I made
you
like,
had them, and it's now like November.
Yeah.
So
No, actually, I want to do an intervention here in Ottawa to put like, because it will be winter, to put like all the heads like around the city.
oh, nice.
Yeah. Like different, like, you know, different colors.
And you just you're gonna leave them just to melt away.
Oh yeah, yeah. Like they will
Nice.
stay, right? Like in the winter, they will be frozen for a long time ago,
Uh-huh.
right? Yeah.
And you've worked with chocolate as well, right?
Yeah.
Chocolate.
Oh yeah, chocolate. Like also like yeah, like actually Randy, my boss, like when I did the Eating Mozart performance, I did like a 40 kilos
Holy smokes.
sculpture of Mozart. of
Oh,
Mozart.
nice.
It was really beautiful.
That's great. But in the performance that you use the gelato heads, so how did that work? You had edible prints of the faces of famous artists, right?
Yeah, Canadian artists or international artists that they were with edible prints, but they were functioning as masks to this self-portrait sculpture made from ice cream. And yeah, it was kind of a way interaction. It was kind of like feeding off this kind of iconic personalities, right? But also kind of destroying them and devouring them. So it got this kind of there's kind of double meaning, right? All the time, like something that is very cute and nice, but could be horrifying. It's kind of a tension between like extremes. I like that.
Nice. Yeah, because in the end, people are supposed to eat the heads, right? Aren't they?
Oh yeah, they're supposed to be the heads. And actually, like some people really ate, like they were outside there, the heads, and people were passing by. They was like touching the thing. It's like, what's that? Oh, it's ice cream. Oh, and they touch it. So that's pretty good.
That's terrific. And you have, and you also incorporate like live animals in the piece, right?
Oh yeah, like what did I do? Actually, like I never told you actually. Like the first piece that I did a long time ago when I was a student in Romania, right? And I did this. I found this bird that almost died, right? And eventually the bird died because of like wounded or something like that. So I made the painting in which I incorporate that bird, right, in the paint, so in the work, right? So it's kind of the first time when I started to work with the animals in my work, right? And recently was the butterfly, like I started to work with butterflies, but also butterflies because they really exemplify this kind of idea of transformation. They go into stages, but each stage is very specific, right? It's like almost kind of a transformative aspect of the performance style, right? Transformative aspect of the ice cream, right? Like each stage is so different than each other, but it is kind of a standalone aesthetical kind of stage, right? Like very liquid, very fluid, and work very hard, very cold, and so on, right? The same with the butterfly, right? So they come from something that it's inanimate, and they become animate, and also after that they have this kind of process of dying and going through time very fast. So I'm interested in this kind of like the transformation that you can grasp, right?
That's amazing. It kind of reminds you of Silence of the Lambs, you know what I mean? Like, because the guy is he's got those butterflies and he's making himself a dress out of the girls.
I forgot that, yeah.
Yeah, and then it's
actually,
really...
a lot of people, when I see my work, some of them like, they compare with some horror.
Yeah, that's interesting.
I'm interested. I'm okay with that. Right? Like it's this aesthetic is kind of a very punk and do-it-yourself aesthetic.
Yeah.
Which I think I find it very interesting. And it's kind of a abnormality.
Yeah.
That's kind of makes the viewer to be like what the fuck is going on.
But the heads are your head, so it's really interesting because
Yeah, and everything like it says like the image of violence, but in fact they are not violent at all.
no,
I don't.
it's you.
Yeah, I like all the material that I work with, they're really like sweet and caramel, tiramisu, syrup, caramel, and stuff like that, right? All these kind of elements, right? So it's nothing that once you realize what the material are, you become to be comfortable and get pleasure and glamour from that kind of horrifying, let's say, image. So it's kind of pushing in back the viewer.
Yeah, I like that. It's because the colors are really nice.
Oh, yeah,
it's cute. It's cute material.
Cute materials, yeah.
It's not, but there are severed heads, like with other people's faces stuck on them.
Yeah, and actually, like Rebecca Burma, when I talked with her, she was like, when she saw because I used her face, right, like in one of the performances, right, and when she was like, I love it. I love it.
Oh,
I love it. Like,
so nice.
because it's this image in which I'm biting from like the edible print that represents Rebecca Belmore. And in the back is a voice, right? They're looking kind of like questioning me.
So that's funny though, because that's the subject meeting the work.
Yeah.
That's
so
really weird.
Yeah.
It's actually
Exactly. Yeah. It's kind of. Yeah, like I like to work with the kind of work so from inside out, right, all the time. Like I think that's just. I think sometimes like there are some people they don't get my work sometimes because they don't understand like the meaning of experimentation for me, right? They come from inside out, right? Like I'm working almost the same kind of idea, but like it's changing, experimenting within that kind of framework, right?
And you work with also fluids play a major role in your work, right?
And I think this is like after I read Judith Butler and Irigore, right, the feminist like structuralism, post-structuralism, like feminist, right? So I realized like that is something that is very related to my work, right? Like the idea of working with liquids and this kind of transformation, right? And the transformation of the body through liquids. And also this kind of is linked with the idea of viscerality.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, I saw in one of your pieces that there's even a shot from a Tarkovsky film with the milk on the floor. Yeah. Is that what that's about? Like the milk being a liquid? Or what's that about? Or is it about just destruction? Or?
That's kind of it's about crisis, right? It's about because also the movie that I appropriated, Sacrifice, this kind that Tarkovsky did right before she died, like after a few years she died. After that, she finished that movie. It's about the idea of failure and crisis, right? And I'm very interested in like the concept of failure and kind of what does failure mean, right? What's the configuration of failure, right? But we have to stop and so this is the ice cream.
So this is what the kiddies will enjoy.
Yes.
Whoa, it looks like poop. Oh, I shouldn't have said that so loud. Wow, Theo, that's amazing.
Actually, that's why I started working here. That's why it was so weird, right? Because I started working here, like was like okay, just it was like I needed money, right? So I never thought that I'm gonna stay here longer than a few months, like 1 year maximum, right? But it was good because working at this like it's very kind of a specific kind of work, right? Like you do this. And this gets consumed and you do again. Like it's kind of a cycle, right?
Right.
So when I realized that, I was like, oh wow, that's so similar with the idea of cycling in art, right?
Right.
Like the art object, what does it mean, right? Like it's kind of cycling. Like you make it, you see it, and you consume it, and just it disappears, right?
Right.
All the time. Like it's not permanent, right?
No.
It's I mean there are museums that they try to keep them permanent, but like it's
they're usually in the basement somewhere.
Yeah, this is
in the basement. Yeah, that's true.
So this kind of cycle kind of realize, like looking at this like futile kind of action, right? Like it's like that. And I know, oh yeah, that's when I look at the idea of art, right? So that's why I started to do like self-portraits made from ice cream, right?
Yeah, because you're basically destroying yourself, basically.
Yeah.
You're not. You're there. If like it's really interesting because if the power went out, your things would disappear completely.
Yeah,
Right?
exactly. But this is kind of a relief, right? Because I started to work as a painter, right? So it's like I was trained to create like to commodify kind of art object, right? So okay, so making a painting would sell, be with my certain gallery and so on, right? But I never was really satisfied with that. Like was
So you,
I didn't like I find something that I don't get too much pleasure of that, and like finding something untrue, pretending that a piece of work it would last a lot,
Right.
and would be like I've enjoyed and sold and so on, like going to that cycle. So that's why kind of like, yeah, I'm okay, like creating performance work and what that like are the only reason that they exist is the documentation of the memory, right?
yeah.
And the memory is like it's an important thing, right, in art, right? It's,
Right.
It was what builds out the art history, right? Like the memory, right? We remember things. So this is chocolate.
Nice. Very cool.
So put this here. Just put in that work. But the point was a guy from the very biennial, a curator, and did a project with the ice creams. But you're referring to all this.
Oh, but he was giving it away, right, or something.
Yeah,
It was
like-
some relational thing.
Yeah,
right?
very relational kind of piece, right? So
Yeah.
Like, and it wasn't a long time ago, like I think 1 year ago. Something like
Yeah, I think so too. Yeah. Now you're working with Pinocchio too, right?
that. Oh yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And how does Pinocchio relate to the transformative identity thing? And
I think Pinocchio, man, is like is the most beautiful icon, contemporary icon, right? So okay, so it comes from the Italian story, and after that was like a story commodified by Hollywood, right? And with what we know about Pinocchio, everyone knows like what Pinocchio means, right? Like everyone knows like okay, so it's this kid that is looking to gain the humanity, right? And but he doesn't succeed all the time, so he fails, and that failure is like it's portrayed to the direct transformation of his face, right? So if he lies, like the nose will grow. So I find it very, very interesting as a concept, and what does it mean, right? So what does it mean that this little kid, right, like lies or like struggle with the idea of becoming a human, right? And in one way, this kind of struggle to perform the normativity, right, of the identity, right? Like okay, so when he fails to fulfill that kind of identity that we know that he was supposed to do, like his nose will grow, right? Or like his nose not gonna grow, right? So it's this kind of a struggle of keeping that identity, right, all the time, and failing all the time. But also like with the Pinocchio thing, it's actually I want to create my own story. So it's not really about Pinocchio.
it's about you.
It's about me, right? It's about
So what, like?
kind of reinventing the story, right? Like creating like my own kind of like mythology or something.
So how does the lion relate to you though?
The lines.
The lion part, yeah, the Pinocchio lies.
I think Pinocchio lies, right? Because he doesn't want to accept the reality, right? He doesn't want to to be framed in a way, right? He doesn't want to be part of all the others, right? Also in saying he doesn't want to be other, right? So I think in one way it's linked to my experience because like okay, so in order to okay, I came here in Canada, right? I was no one, right? Like and you met me, right? You met me like I was kind of invisible artist, right? So also I kind of struggle to be part of something, right? And be part of what's going on into arts in Canada and so on. And I had the impression all the time I was that kind of failing to and struggling to be perfect, right?
Right.
So I think like also Pinocchio, like he's struggling to be perfect, but he never succeeds.
Yeah, because does he want to be a little boy or something?
Yeah, exactly.
But he's a wooden boy.
Yeah, exactly.
Damn.
And also I find it a little bit also fetishistic, this kind of like the idea of like almost like a god made from wood, right? Right, like it's. But also like the idea of the Pinocchio that I'm working on, like is also linked with the idea of like trauma and revisiting trauma and erasing the trauma, right? Because it's this Pinocchio though that I have it when I was a kid, right? I was a kid and that was a Pinocchio that my father gave it to my mom as a present, saying, okay, so if one of us would lie, the nose would grow as they're referring to the relation, right? Of course, it got divorced, so it didn't work out, right?
I guess it did.
Kind of was like wasn't successful kind of story, like it didn't. And I think this is the reality, right? So, but what's the funny thing, like when I went back to Romania, because I encountered again, like I saw the Pinocchio doll again, I was like, wow, this is the perfect doll that I should use in my work, right? And because it's a doll that can be dismembered, I'm playing a lot of this kind of constructing and deconstructing an icon, right? So that we kind of try to make it normal, but while you try to ensemble it, like you can see the traces of the action, right? That has this kind of the red that links with the idea of blood, or like the becomes a messy scene, right? But becomes normal, but becomes a messy scene, right? And like on the reverse, I'm doing the same kind of action after like disassemble it and trying to clean it up again. So it's kind of a visiting and revisiting the trauma, right? Because it's almost like a cycle, right? Like, and also it's about the cleanliness, the idea of cleanliness, our society, right? Like what clean means, right? And clean is like to be normal, right? To be like.
Right. Yeah.
We don't like messy. Like kids like messy things, right? But like when you become an adult, you become conscious of the idea of like, oh, if I have some traces or something, I don't fit right like in a certain group, right?
Exactly. Right.
Like homeless people could be like dirty.
Yeah.
People who are outcasts of society could be dirty or something like that. But normal people know. And I find it kind of very interesting. So that's why through my work I kind of try to put in front of the people some aspects of the humanity that we refuse to see them. Like also like the fear of disappearance, fear of death, fear of dirtiness,
poverty,
the glam poverty, taking pleasure through poverty and like mess and
But that's funny actually, because you also use a lot of gold leaf in your work.
Oh yes. Exactly.
So how does that relate to poverty, fear of all that, and the identity thing and the messiness of it all?
Like for me, it comes from the because I'm Romanian, right? So Romanian culture is very fond on the idea of the Byzantinism, right? The creation of Byzantinism. Right? So what gold leaf means in like icons means like it's a space, right? It's a pure space made from gold leaf or like. Gold leaves or of silver leaf, right? And that kind of like pure space is framing an identity. It's framing like, okay, the figure of Jesus, the figure of like Virgin Mary, and so on, right? It's kind of all this sense, right? So for me, the goal is almost like trying to frame also like an identity, frame a, like a performative gesture, right? But the difference is that my user goal is very visceral, right? It's almost like another material that I'm using. So what I think through my work, what I realized like through the past like few years, that most the material that I'm using, I give them an equal kind of importance, right? I don't make yellow in between them, right? Like the microphones that I'm using, the recorder, the gelato, the tiramisu syrup, and the gold leaf or the Pinocchio dog, they all have the same kind of, they're on the same level.
Yeah.
So I don't make any difference to them. Like I equalize them. I treat them in the same way, right? I don't prioritize. Yeah, any of the gesture, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, but like this is so the goal was about that, like kind of lowering to the same level of the other performative gesture, right? Like it's goal leaf, but like could be a very well like shit or like
it could be dog shit.
Yeah, exactly.
So you're destroying the heroic quality of the gold.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, and. But also like the goal, if I know exclusion in some of the video for performance or the performance that I did, like it has like a interesting quality and fragility, right? Like it's fragile and it's beautiful, and once you get punctured and get fragmented, like it has a extremely like powerful quality of transforming the face, right? Applying to the face, like it's almost like this, like become kind of monstrous kind of image, right? So this kind of fragmentation.
Like monstrosity. Yeah.
It's, I like it. I like this kind of.
Yeah, it becomes textural maybe as opposed to, because when they use it in paint in even Renaissance and early Renaissance and medieval painting, it's like very smooth. There's nothing, like it's a smooth, it's almost like they use it for saints and pictures of saints.
Yeah, exactly.
So in a way it's almost like now it's about not saints but about gelato and
I think because what I realized, like it's I like to place my work like this kind of a crossover between Baroque and Rococo, right? So, because what I find very interesting about these two movements, historical two movements, is the fact that, okay, they came one after the other, right? But also, like, what is the commonality between them is that it's of escaping, right? Escaping, like, Baroque was like, the idea was escaping reality through religion, like religious stories, martyrdom, and so on, right? And Rococo was also escaping reality, but through like the pleasure of life, the superficiality, sexuality, and so on, right? So this, and I think my work, I can place it there, right? It's kind of crossover between Baroque and Rococo, but also because if I'm looking at kind of the architectural kind of aspect of my work, it does have this kind of overwhelming quality, right? Like if you look at the Rococo architecture, right? Like what's up on the ceiling is so heavy that should belong down on the floor, right? So I like to play this kind of idea, like kind of inverting the way we're seeing on the viewer. That's why I have this gesture like sitting on my head, like it's a kind of recurrent kind of gesture that I have in my performances, right? But also like Baroque and Rococo, they are there are two movements in art history that like are very fond of idea of viscerality, right? Like the gods in the sense they are very human. They have like human suffering, right?
You mean like the Greek gods or?
No, I mean like let's say if you look at the Caravaggio one, right?
Okay, So you mean the Caravaggio?
Yeah, if you look one of the, I don't know, one of the martyrdom that he describes
Yeah.
in his painting, right? It's a visceral approach, like the characters that are doing impossible movements, and it's they're more almost hilarious, kind of abundant. Right?
Yeah.
So I like to create kind of a almost stupidity and satire of reality, right? It's like the same thing like now, right? Like I'm making ice cream and I'm talking about this, right? That's the beauty of the reality, right?
Yeah. I mean, and Caravaggio was a shit kicker who was on the lam and apparently had killed a dude, I think, right?
Oh yeah,
He was a total asshole.
Yeah, it was very violent.
Kind of like a violent dude.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess what the Rococo and the Baroque have in common too is a preponderance of elements. It's like as opposed to, I guess, classicism. It's more like
Oh yeah, like
there's a lot of stuff in there, you know, like or even Baroque music is got a lot of polyphony and what do you call that?
I think it's not a kind of
contrapuntal elements.
Oh yeah, exactly. Like it's not an aestheticized kind of very aestheticized and cleaned up kind of image, right? It's all about like guts.
It's all it's
all the kind of the life that we have in us.
Yeah.
Right? It's not, like it's about the life that we have in us. It's the very object, right? It's like it's not as pretty. It's not like you know, like the Ophelia representation, right? Like you know, like she's dying. She's right, like drawn, and she's still beautiful. Like it's not about that. Like it's about our variety of and object quality of our life, right? I think that's nice. Like it's true.
Yeah, that's really cool because it's funny because the Romanian thing comes through in the gold leaf. That's right.
Yeah, the Byzantine, like
the Byzantine.
This is very interesting. Like with the Romanian culture, is that it's a highly religious kind of society, like a population. Basically, like the population of Romania is like highly religious, right? Like it's, but in the same time, it's a kind of on the other side, like it's also like a very profane kind of.
Really?
Yeah. Like think about like the Romanian, they have been under the communists for
that's
so
right.
long,
Yeah, that's
right?
right. Yeah.
So during the communism, like so some of the church were destroyed and so on. Like people didn't really believe in God, like who believe in God really. And but in the same time, they are fond of this kind of very kind of religiosity of approaching life. Everything is someone else's fault, right? For what happened.
Right. So nobody takes responsibility. You mean?
Yeah, no one takes responsibility of their behavior. It's also it's kind of a superstitious kind of approach, right? I think like other like countries from Eastern Europe, they go through that kind of blaming the responsibility to another, right? Or like trying kind of to your problem to be solved by a shaman or like
right.
Not someone else. Like it's not my fault. So.
Yeah, it's like if you did the rain dance and it didn't rain, it's because you somehow screwed up the rain dance.
Yeah.
So you gotta redo it, and once you do it right, it'll rain. That kind of idea. Right?
Yeah. It's
chocolate chips.
Chocolate chips, man. Look, when I do the chocolate chips, like this is very elaborate kind of.
Oh damn.
Press here. It's almost like painting, you know. It's almost like I'm revisiting. I don't know. Conceptually, I'm visiting Paul McCartney, right? But in reality, right?
That's
I
right.
feel like I've been training with Paul McCartney actually to be a science right? Like, and also like the painterly quality of this material is amazing, right? Like,
right. Yeah, and sculpturally too.
It's very, it's very sculptured. Like it's a beautiful material. Doesn't kind of very like my dream is really to make like a show in which to have all these like beautiful sculptures under the glass, like in the big freezers, kind of a museum setting, and have like be there for the whole duration of the show and just get frozen and melt again and get frozen and melt again, right? This kind of a Oh, you know what? I forgot to punch it.
Oh shit.
But oh, we can see how long and I can tell the...
Yeah, good one. Yeah. Well, we're at 36 minutes.
Okay. So this is...
So how do you feel about that dude, Paul McCarthy?
Actually, like a lot of people when they see my work, so this guy named appears, right?
Uh-huh.
But I see the difference between me and him is that it's I'm playing with the idea of absurdity, but it's almost like it's an aggressiveness that also we have in common with the material, like working with the material, but it's creating like I'm creating this kind of environment that sometimes people can get really pleasure from that, like especially the smells and like it's a very pleasurable kind of image, right? And kind of putting together kind of a dichotomic kind of realities. Yeah, and
Well, I see. I see a kind of like a difference, like where his stuff is about being infantile. Like like his shit is about being infantile, but mixing it with like with brutality, infantilism. And your shit is about your identity and trauma and how that and transformation.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's kind of there's two different approaches.
Yeah, and I think that the matter of like let's say in Paul McCarthy world, right? Like the sexuality plays a perverty, so it like plays a big role, right?
Right.
So in my work, I play very subtle with that. Like I'm kind of it's something kind of underneath a lot. Like okay, so the idea of pearls that I'm like the string of pearls that I'm using in my work, or the idea of Pinocchio, it has kind of a sexual connotation, but kind of I keep it underneath. So it's not the main point.
Right.
The main point is kind of working, like seeing identity as almost as a container, right?
Yeah.
And also like this idea of exactly like doing and undoing.
Right.
Like cleaning the trays, revisiting the trays and so on, right? Cleaning up and so on, right? And also like Paul McCarthy work is about masking, right? Masking your identity.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't see my work, although like I'm using the kind of the prosthetic kind of nose.
Yeah.
This idea of the Pinocchio, but it's not really, or like the smile, the clown smile.
Yeah.
It's not really masking. Like I'm not creating a persona with that. In which like Paul McCartney is creating a persona as a kind of fucked up persona, like that. But I think like myself, it's almost like like okay, so the lipstick or the nose, they're almost like strategy of making the viewer being aware of what's going on your face and in your eyes. But it's almost like okay, so when someone has lipstick on their lips, right? You pay attention to those the thing, right? Also, or like the maquillage, what maquillage means, right? It's about that kind of playing at, like trying to signal that something gonna happen. Some emotions and so on, right? So that's why I'm using those, like not for masking and becoming a character or real or something like that.
Yeah.
But
yeah, and I think his thing has something of an Americana element, like when it comes to, he's playing with American popular culture, and also with, you know, intrinsically American stuff like Heinz ketchup and mayo and French's mustard and whatnot, and that's in a way that is something that is intrinsically US of A, you know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
Whereas your thing is not trying to be, it's not relating to any of that.
Yeah, and also I think like the point is that like Paul McCartney came in, right? He came in a moment in which the feminist kind of like move was kind of like was very strong, right? So kind of he was the guy who was like, you know what? I don't care about anything. I'm playing on this kind of a brutality of the male body and like the stupidity on male body and so on, right? So he was playing on that, right, a lot, like kind of like trying to be different and trying to not care about the audience, not care about the concept and so on, right? Being just the freaking Paul McCartney, like the guy who from building houses became like a star, right? And what I think like for me, like I'm really embracing, that's like I think one of the theories that I'm kind of like is more this kind of I can describe my work through it is like Judith Butler, that first structuralist theorist Judith Butler. I don't know why, like because she's talking maybe about the idea of the performativity of gender, and I kind of link that with the translation to what the performative identity, right? So is this really something fixed? What does identity mean, right? It's like the same with the gender and sexuality. What does that mean, right? Like is it something fixed or not? It's like it's just like something that performs in a certain environment trying to become normal. And it's the same thing with identity, I think. Like it's like, okay, so you are from El Salvador, but actually are you from El Salvador?
No.
You said like I'm from Romania. I'm really from Romania. Like I don't like it's kind of almost this kind of fragmented or multifaceted kind of reality that's surrounded by kind of like a very strong concept like the sexuality, identity, and stuff like that.
Fuck. Okay. So say that shit about the painting.
So the idea that the painting is too fixed. Like you know, escape like the from the kind of the action of painting an object, right? You're painting an object when you paint a painting, right? Like it's that thing that we're gonna sell one day, right? Sooner or later or something like that, right? And by contrary, like the performance of that thing is like it's so different because it's just that pleasure of making an action, right? Like it's just for the viewer or like for like being documented in that, but it's something that is not placeable, right? Like as an object in time, right? It's not something that has that kind of value that we place to objects, right? So I think in that sense, it's a little more, a little bit more freedom and less pressure. And also I find it like a little bit, when I see painters talking about their work that they represent this kind of, I don't know, like the struggle of humanity, or like it's about, I don't know, like all these kind of bigger concepts, like you know what, it doesn't do that.
Really?
It's just a painting, a freaking painting that like you kind of, it's not something that it's really true. It's not something really
So
true.
you think they're kind of bullshitting themselves into thinking
I think so, right?
that the painting has more to say than it does?
Yeah, I think it just, you know, like painting is almost like maquillage, right? It's like makeup.
Right.
And it's about that, and I think the Baudelaire was talking about that, like painter painting as maquillage, as makeup. So it's just like covering a surface. And you do that, like you cover a surface, and it's something that is supposed to be washable, but it's not. But it's still there in time,
But what I mean, what about like say like a Van Eyck or like say I don't know like
What?
you know like a Bruegel or a Hieronymus Bosch or what's that dude's name from Nuremberg?
Grünwald?
Huh?
Grünwald?
No.
Dürer?
Yeah, Albert Dürer. What about? How do you see that stuff? Like, do you think it's similar? Is the same fallacy in that stuff, or what do you think? I mean, because our historians, they spend, you know, so much time trying to figure all that stuff out. Like you know that painting that by Van Eyck with the married couple. Like, what the hell does it all mean?
Oh yeah, with
Blah blah blah. And then David Hockney came up with that theory about lenticular technology being used in painting during that time.
Yeah.
What do you think of those guys, though? Like, do you think is it all the same bullshit?
I don't know. Like the fact that it was also like paintings also like let's say in the 15th century, but it was like also the idea of like the technique, and it was almost like an alchemic kind of approach.
Right.
Very,
right.
in a way, and it has a certain like you couldn't paint like that. You couldn't be a painter without really knowing how to do things, right? How to create that kind of like almost like creating a piece of jewelry, right? So that kind of connection between the materiality and the spirituality,
Yeah.
the representation of the material, like was kind of very linked together, right? But today, like that thing doesn't exist anymore.
Today
right?
we kind of use that ironically almost. Or,
Yeah, we can use it. Yeah, it's true.
Yeah, because the whole idea of painting was that the luminosity that you could get through the light being refracted through the washes and
Yeah, exactly.
of the oil paint.
Yeah.
And it was hard to get even the pigments like cobalt blue. You had to go to Afghanistan to get it. And
Yeah,
the red you had to get it from cochinillas in Mexico.
Was really a very performative kind of working of a painting, where like everything like was linked to the idea of the process, right? Like grinding the pigments, making the color, using it in a certain way, specific certain way, and so on, right? Like was like trying to discover some secrets about that, and
Yeah.
making the material of paint to not be paint anymore, right?
Right. To create reality, to create a
Reality, which is,
yeah.
I think was more a more genuine kind of approach.
Right.
Painting,
Yeah.
Because you
Yeah.
kind of course, they're like.
Maybe we just can't see it because they didn't have photography or anything,
Yeah, exactly.
and we do. Right?
Like. That's. Like it's like that, right? Like this could be. I'm satisfied with this. Like this could be like a moment of painting, right?
Yeah.
It's like making the pigment, right?
Yeah.
So.
Absolutely.
I like the smell. Like.
Yeah, it's really, smells really good. So basically, you don't believe in painting at all, basically, as it stands, contemporary painting.
It's weird. I don't. Yeah. It's okay, but I don't believe in painting. But I think I like seeing paintings. I like, but I don't believe for myself. Right? This is the whole thing. Right? Like, because I come from that background, right? Like I was a painter, right? I did paintings for a long time. I worked with that medium a lot. But you know, everything is about faith, right? Like in that sense, kind of weird thing about that, but they have a religiosity but being profane, right? So this is kind of thing like kind of I lost faith in this kind of idea of painting.
Like, you mean faith in painting? Is
Yeah,
that
exactly.
you mean?
Yeah, like it's something that is not doesn't help me anymore. Like doesn't.
When he helped you, how did it help you when it did?
I think it helped me like to kind of to start looking at the concept of the self-representation, right? Self-portrait, self-representation. It really helped me that way because I was kind of focusing on the image, right? Like the representation of the face, bone structure, and so on, right? So in that way, it helped me out, and also it helped me out like to have an understanding of the materiality of material gesture, and with what I brought in, what in my performances are almost very painterly, right?
Yeah, they are.
I have like a painting quality, right? So I think, it's something that I wouldn't have been able to do that without making painting, right?
Right. And when it stopped serving you psychologically, how did it stop serving you? What did it do?
I say like exactly to not get too much pleasure into paint. It became frustrating, right? Because like, I feel like it's like, what am I doing here? Like it's like I was painting, it was like doesn't make any sense. Like doesn't make to try to represent an idea in a graphic way. Like it makes more sense for me, right? It makes like was too much work in the sense kind of trying to mask an idea with like a trace of the material, like masking and kind of packaging it, right? So I think this is what painting does, is packaging an idea or a concept, right? And I think the performance doesn't do that. Like it it's more almost like having a conversation about the concept of the idea.
Whoa, very nice. So is the idea of painting in somehow in league with the idea of the existence of God or something?
The existence of what?
Of God?
Yeah.
Or you think so?
Like what do you say?
Like, because you were talking about painting in relation to faith.
Yeah.
And then, so painting is a certain, almost like there is uncertainty in creating it because a lot of the times you don't know what the hell you're doing, but there's also a certainty in the finished product. And the certainty is that somehow you created a reflection of the world or your mental state, whatever the case may be. So is that like analogous to the idea that God exists, and therefore everything, no matter how bullshit or confusing the world may be, that anyway there's at least somebody out there that can hold it together? Is that what you're kind of? Is that the thing?
Also, the idea of the presentation of God, right? The representation of ideas, right? Like it doesn't make any sense to you, right? Like it's
right.
It's a easy understanding of like this idea of spirituality or something like that, but I don't know. Like it's this is like it's. I think that's why like everything is about faith, right? Like we believe in that because we were trained to believe in that, right? We're a certain moment, our like history or something like that, personal history, or like the collective history,
right?
We were told that okay, that thing exists or that thing, you should believe in that and so on, right? So it's a concept, right?
It's a concept.
It's a concept that, as any other concept, right? they exist only because we say that they exist, right?
Yeah, but then that concept has a hegemony.
Yes, exactly. Like exactly. Yeah, yeah. It's yeah.
But then, so basically, you love experimenting. Is that has something to do with it too?
The what?
That you like to experiment, and with painting, maybe you couldn't do the same shit, or
Yeah, the thing like with painting, like you cannot do a painting without thinking that okay, so that thing, one way or the other has to be able to stand alone there, to not like leak or to not like transform, they become like something different or something like that. Like, and because I really like to work with weird materials, like that didn't help me out at all. Right?
yeah,
Like I made paintings with honey and like alcohol or wine or something like that, and that doesn't help me. Alo? Uite, stai la Gelato, fac asta Gelato și cu Ulysses mi-a interviu și fac asta. Ok. Ok. Poate mergem să mâncăm undeva sau ceva. Trebuie un hangout. Poți să vii și tu dacă e mai bine acolo. Yeah. Okay. Your Romanian language.
nice,
Romanian.
very nice. Who was the big Dada Romanian guy? Oh, Marcel Janco, right? Or no?
Masiliancu, yeah.
That's amazing.
Distanțarea Masiliancu. That's so interesting. Like Romanians, they do have kind of a notion about revolution, right? Because what Dada did, the revolution was like a revolution in the art, right? Like not believing in anything, or in the idea of not believing. So that was amazing. It was something very new. And the Romanian, like two Romanian guys, like they were the ones who were seminal figures in this movement. Right? I find it incredible. Incredible in the sense that, and also like ironical, because Romanians, they are not so, as a culture, let's say, they are not so well known, right? They don't play a pivotal kind of, how to say, role in the history somehow. Really, like it's what we see and what we know. It's because what's going on in France, England, and the States, right? That's it, right? It's not. It's weird that so Romanians are kind of they were similar in a lot of movement, but it's not something that like we see that in the international context. Like yeah, like how many Romanian artists you know? Like then besides this, like okay, Brum Pusi, maybe he's became international or something like that, but not many. It's but also like with the Romania, I think this was like the communist man was like it fucked up a lot, like the culture, the perception of culture and everything, the perception of everything, of race, gender, and so on, right? And history, right? But I think like that's where like what's his name, Masiliancu and what's his name, Distanțarea was they able to do similar figures for Dada is because Romanians are they have like a very fine understanding of the idea of like satire and irony. Like it's their thing. It's also like it's what helped like Romanians to cope with the idea of communism, right? like to be satire and irony, like and understanding like the irony of life, right? Like how come like the country itself like was able to be under the communists for so like under oppression and suddenly to do a revolution didn't make any sense, right? Like it's, how come we're able to do a revolution but we in the same time we stay so long under the communists, like it's so how come we are so controllable but in the same time we had the power to say like, you know what, fuck you now like I cannot stand anymore this kind of oppression, right? So now cleaning up, right?
Nice.
Doing and undoing.
Oh, that's the cleanup right there.
The cleanup, huh?
Very cool. Pretty cool process.
Excuse me. Yeah, so probably I'm gonna do. Oh yeah, the heat is very important.
Yeah, right? I guess so, because it looks really ominous. Yeah, but Tristan Sarah was the big guy in that, right?
The what?
The Tristan Sarah was the big data guy.
But also
The guy who ran the whole Kip and
he
Kapuro.
didn't live in Romania, this is the thing. Like most of the artists that they did something, most of them they live somewhere else. Like he lived in France, right?
Right.
The writer Michel Yada lived in Chicago, I think, yeah, in the States in Chicago. Another writer like Emile Choran lived in France. So there were a lot of any other artists, like there are some other artists that they lived in Germany or so on, right? So they never lived in their country.
Right.
I think they were just like they weren't maybe understood enough, or like, or maybe just by chance, right?
Yeah.
You don't know, right?
That's it.
That's it?
Yeah, we fill the tape, man.
Okay, cool.
Sweet. Hey, I have an idea, man. We should go interview Guy.
What?
Let's go interview Guy too.
You?
And we'll put this shit on the internet.
Oh yeah, yeah.
On YouTube.
Oh yeah.
And